Here are all the strange news articles from the week that you might have missed in the news. We will be covering the United States and their UFO government disclosure, Japan's latest update on their UFO information, new AI developments, a politician that saw a UFO close up, and so much more. Let's get straight into it. I do want to say hello to everyone in the live chat that was able to catch today's live show. Rome, All Work Low Pay, Chris, Undead, Brian, Moon, Peace. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to get into it. So, talking about first with UFO disclosure in the United States. This has been a very hot topic. Over the last, if I had to throw a number, maybe the last significantly 2.5, 3 years at most. So we are familiar with the UAPDA run by Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds. Well, we did get a little bit more information. And for those that aren't familiar with the UAPDA, it kind of sort of passed in the sense of a chunk of it was taken out where Schumer said the government will provide this, and this information regarding UFOs. And the government was like, no, not this, maybe this, not that. But now we have further information regarding this UAPDA and further developments that Chuck Schumer is doing. For instance, he had mentioned that he requires the federal agencies to disclose all information about UAPs by October 20th. Now, is that actually going to happen? When has the US government ever pulled through on these kinds of dates? It's going to be hard to tell. However, I think it is rather exciting that we have a date, in the sense of we can hopefully expect some information by October 20th. Now, the question is, why that date? Why that specific time frame? Why couldn't it have been tomorrow? I mean, the conversation on the UAPDA has been going on for months. So why push it until October? Does it take that long for different government and federal agencies to go and comb through their information to decipher what can be classified and what cannot? That's a question, I think, for people that deal with that information. But also October, that's spooky month. That's Halloween month, because all of October is Halloween. It's not just one day. So I think it's rather interesting for me personally, looking at this as an outsider, that this information will come out during the quote spooky month. And I want you to hold on to that because it's going to be relevant for another article we're going to be covering. So just write that down, put it on a post-it note, put it in your brain, put it wherever you like. So that's really just the newest update with that information. And also, just to throw it out there, the Canada Sky Project, which is the Canadian UFO research group, will be releasing their UFO report by the end of the year. So maybe around this same time frame. And we'll see what other countries come forward with their public information regarding UFOs, as it does seem that more of them are coming out publicly, sharing information, but consistently ever since the ERA report that came out in March that said all foreign countries that have similar UFO offices can agree with the United States that there is nothing to see here and UFOs are not extraterrestrial. We can kind of assume that other countries are going to follow suit with that. We've seen it with Japan. We've seen it with Australia. I can expect it from Canada. But hopefully with this requirement by Chuck Schumer to tell these federal agencies to provide us more information about UAP, maybe, just maybe, we'll get something that we can sink our teeth into. Getting into our next one, talking about Japan, because I've mentioned this for the last several weeks, actually, about the latest Japanese developments with the conversation of UFOs, because a few weeks back, for those that watch Strangest News of the Week religiously, I see you, I know who you are, and for those that don't worry, I got you. I'll give you a quick preface, because Japan has been mentioning over the last few weeks, nothing to see here, following the narrative of the latest ERA report. Then last week, there was new information that the Japanese parliament was going to have a meeting this week about this conversation on how to proceed with UFO research and if it should be focused on with manpower and tax dollars or forgotten about. Because right before this meeting that took place, that we will cover in just a moment, last week they're like, no, UFOs, they are terrestrial. We don't know what they are, but we can manage. It's not extraterrestrial, nothing to see here. But then after this meeting, it seems like certain things have changed. So there were these group of lawmakers, including former defense ministers, and they launched an investigation into UFO sightings, arguing that this should not be dismissed as they could potentially be surveillance drones or weapons. When have we heard this? Here, the Japanese are using the threat narrative or the national security issue protecting their country, which people are going to disagree with me, but just hear me out. When you're using the threat narrative, it adds a level of seriousness into it. People are like, okay, now it's worth the manpower. Now it's worth the weapons and the tax dollars. Because let's say, oh, they're super friendly, rainbows, unicorns, and sprinkles. No one's going to care, at least from the government mentality and aspect. So throwing in this kind of threat narrative or protecting the country, I think does have some push behind it. So as we are aware with this, Arrow had mentioned, or at least like the United States government allegedly, according to CBS News, they had mentioned that the U.S. Defense Department labeled the region from Western Japan to China a hotspot for sightings of UFOs. And the nonpartisan group consisted of over 80 members in Japan for the Japanese parliament, and which aims to improve Japan's ability to detect and analyze UAP following several suspected surveillance incidents involving unauthorized footage of a docked helicopter destroyer spreading on Chinese social media, and the Japanese Defense Ministry's strong presumption that flying objects sighted in recent years were surveillance balloons by China. And yet this group of 80 are saying maybe it's something more to that. Now, what I found very interesting about this article, according to CBS News, is that the US Defense Department had mentioned that Western Japan all the way to China was a UFO hotspot from the years 1996 to 2023. I had not come across that information. I mean, you and I, we are aware that China and Japan have had their fair share of UFO sightings and their interest in the topic. Both of them do have their own UFO offices. However, I was not familiar with the fact that the Department of Defense said, yep, they're a hotspot. I don't know where they're getting that information, but I thought I would just throw that out there for you to digest on your own time. And so after this meeting, they're like, we need to do more significant research. And that is supposedly what they're going to be doing. And for you and I'm really hoping that this group and that the Japanese parliament will provide public information on their research investigations and their analysis on these UFOs in and around their airspace. So I think it seems a little bit promising, even though it might be a nothing burger. Just the overall conversation that so many countries are having, and it's getting this public momentum. That is the most immense push, and like the ball is rolling for us. I think this is really great in the sense of just talking about this publicly. Yeah, P says DOD said that China and Japan are hotspots. Look, it did raise some alarms in my brain. I was like, whoa, hold up. I mean, yes, but are they going to admit that? I'm not sure. Yeah, John, me too. I hope so too. Hopefully sooner than later. Getting into our next one, remember I said to write down that certain piece of information on a post-it note or keep it in your brain? It's going to be relevant for this next article. Also is a very cool picture of a UFO over Japan. Okay. Steven Spielberg. He's been in the news lately because of his new film that's going to be released soon, talking about UFOs, aliens, but we have no idea what it's going to be about aside from it's going to be about UFOs. Now, he's created ET. He has created Close Encounters in the sense of like UFO type movies, and those were all classics. They were bangers. I mean, everyone loves them up until today. He's going to make a new one. But that's actually not what we're talking about here today. Instead, he did a recent interview on The Late Show, and what was really interesting about this is that he was talking about UFOs and aliens and his old movies, which is all great stuff. But he had stated that he's never had a UFO encounter. He always wished that he did. He did have, a lot of inspiration for the movies E.T. and Close Encounters. And people believe that are watching this from the sidelines that he has received information, confidential information from those that are familiar with this topic and this research to help him with his specific movies. We've heard this before and it's nothing new. Now, this next piece of information I thought was really shocking for multiple reasons, but he stated in the interview on The Late Show that what if, I think this is insane actually, what if aliens or these UFO craft that we're seeing in the sky are humans from 500,000 years into the future? In the last few years, we've heard this theory, I want to say consistently, more so than ever before. And for Spielberg to say the same thing on camera, to me, it was like fireworks, alarms, red flags, everything that you can imagine was going through my mind in this moment for several reasons. Could it be because he has hidden information? He's in contact with people that might know that? Is it all for the narrative? Is it, hear me out, what if this is a form of prepping for the public on this topic? Because wouldn't you be a lot less scared if it was humans more so than some terrifying looking alien race that looks nothing like humanity, like the praying mantis? Let's just hear me out just for a moment. It would be a lot easier to prep people to say, you know what, maybe it's just us from the future. Your panic, your alarms would not go off as loud as saying, guys, it is this horrific looking cockroach, 6-foot tall monster with thumbs. I'd be peeing my pants if I knew that information. So, or is Spielberg just telling a joke, taking the piss out of us, right? There's all of these different possibilities, but I just thought it was so weird to hear it from someone like himself in the last few days, but also we've heard this theory over the last few years on this. Michael, thank you so much. Hey, Cristina, keep up the great work. Thank you. And thank you for supporting the channel. That's going to go straight into the RV fund, where I'll be traveling the United States, hitting all the UFO and paranormal hotspots, documenting it, and taking you on the journey with me. Also, I just want to say thank you again for that. But the best place to support me is actually on Patreon. There you get behind the scenes footage, videos, all the latest updates. You get merch that I am not selling. I'm giving it out to you, like cups and magnets and hats and stickers and so many other things, clothing. I'm working on that part. But that is the best place to support this channel, more so than YouTube, more so than Super Chats. Patreon. Dude, I'm telling you, there's so much you can gain from over there. And Michael, thank you. Okay, getting into our next one. By the way, that link is in the description box below. And all of these articles will also be in the description box. Okay. Oh, it's also up in the live chat as well for those that want to check it out. We also have like get-togethers as well where we play trivia, because I know All Work Low Pay can speak out on that because he won some merch for getting the answers right on some trivia games that we played. Now we're getting into AI. I love the topics of AI and the developments because we are seeing it right in front of our eyes. I say that every time. I never change that sentence because it is true, especially with the developments of different apps, how to interact with these programs. And there's this new one where you're able to speak to yourself 60 years in the future, where these AI whatever are creating synthetic memories in order to help present you overcome the issues that you're going through or job opportunities and who knows whatever else. And this was created by MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the United States. For those that don't know, that is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. And so they developed an AI powered chatbot called Future You, which simulates a user's 60-year-old self. And the chatbot creates an aged up profile picture and generates synthetic memories based on the user's responses to questions about their past, present, and future aspirations. And then by engaging in a conversation with their future self, users can receive advice and gain insights into their lives from a new perspective. I I I have I don't I as you can tell I'm lost for words for this one because I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think MIT has good intentions with this because you're always going to listen more to your own advice than the advice like a fitness guru will give you or a best friend. You 99% of the time do not take their advice. You ask for it, but you don't really want it. Instead, you listen to yourself, right? And so I think that's kind of the idea that MIT is working with. And they say, you know what, maybe based off of the limited amount of information that we know about each person when they answer questions and surveys, we can provide them advice. And then at some point, the more you use it, the more that we're becoming integrated with AI, it's becoming more difficult to pull us apart from it. And we just kind of begin to feel like it's more real, more consistent, and more a part of us. So, can I see this flourishing in the future? 100%. No question. And so right now it's still under trial and it had 334 volunteers that interact with this chatbot. And apparently the chatbot significantly decreased participants' negative emotions and increased their sense of knowing their future selves and feeling more positive for the future. And the research notes that the people who feel more connected to their future selves often exhibit better mental health, academic performance, and even financial skills as well. That sounds like some pretty good stats. If you're, I would, I would probably use it. I'll say, why not? Let's see how it goes. How well does it know me? How well do I know me? Because sometimes you don't know yourself that well until you go under a certain level of stress or in a certain situation. Sometimes those around you, like your closest friends or family members, will know you better than you know yourself. Meditate a little bit more. That might help. But here with AI, it's actually pretty good at figuring out what you like to shop for. It has pointed ads. You see that across websites. You see it on Google and on all these other search engines. And sometimes they get it right. Now, with this one, that's more focused on answering or where you have to answer specific questions about yourself, it can build on that. This almost brings in the topic of those psychological tests. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's actually very relevant for this conversation where, and I can't remember the name, but someone's going to know this. It's those psychological tests where someone reads a paper or like a little fortune, right? And they say, and they name all these positive things about you. Like, for instance, you are a very kind person. You care about other people have to say about you. And you like, cozy clothing, whatever. And all these different people that have very little in common all get that same sheet of paper and then they rate how accurate that sheet of paper is to them. And the accuracy levels are anywhere from 85 to 90% accurate, when in reality, we just want to see the best parts about ourselves, real or not. And I think AI might be able to tap into those psychological tests and be able to probably hone on that to give ourselves, in quotation marks, ourselves better advice for ourselves. Now, I know someone's going to know that psychological test, and I'd love to know the title because it's escaping me right now. But hopefully that makes sense. I feel like it does. Getting into our next one here, talking about IKEA. How many of you have ever shopped at IKEA, enjoy shopping at IKEA, eat their Swedish meatballs at IKEA? Tell me, I want to hear it. Because some people, they make it into a vacation trip almost. They'll travel several hours, 50, 100 miles to get to this IKEA and then shop for plywood practically and then assemble it with the most simple instructions on the planet that actually are not helpful at all. And then, after all that hard work, you're eating those Swedish meatballs and throwing your kid in the little playground that they have downstairs. Well, now, this is actually hilarious because now IKEA is offering a unique opportunity for people to earn money by working in a virtual version of its stores on the gaming platform Roblox. You are probably familiar with that gaming platform. Either you have played it, your kids, your nephews, whatever. You know this game. Well, IKEA is jumping on that bandwagon and they say, we're going to do the exact same thing. So right now, they are taking applications until June 16th to pick 10 lucky people to work for them virtually, to sell them Swedish meatballs, to point out where the plastic shelves are in the 3,000 floors of IKEA. And you'll get paid about $15 an hour, which is what you usually get paid for any kind of basic job, right? So because of these 10 people that are going to be playing this game, it'll figure out the bugs for IKEA and see if they're actually going to be a new successful game. Would you play this? Would you let your kids play this? I mean, does it hurt anyone? Does it induce a shopping addiction? Does it teach you actually like how to be a better customer service agent? Because my goodness, can it be so hard to deal with people's awful entitlements and sometimes their most stupid questions? I hope this game will teach kids and adults that have never done any customer service job to learn those skills of patience and compassion and to not throw hands. Let's see, who would play this game? Oh, yeah, you know what, Heiser? You could become your own Geek Squad. I feel like you could. They should make a game of their own. And they'll ask you, did you turn it on and off again? Did you unplug it and replug it back in? I feel like that's classic stuff. Alpha says instructions? Who needs instructions? Especially when you're rebuilding IKEA furniture. You're right. Just figure it out and hope for the best. No. Read the instructions. It's going to save you so much headache. Undesert says, I like trivia. I don't know if the IKEA job will teach you trivia, but it will teach you memory on where all of the furniture and plushies are, and you got to figure it out. I feel like that could get really interesting. P says, hey, no question is stupid. Sometimes people test that theory. Now here, when it comes to the strange and the mysterious, you're absolutely right. Now, in the outside world, we're pushing it just a little bit. All right, I got one more for you, talking about the strange and the mysterious. Here's a screenshot of what the game will look like for the IKEA on Roblox that will be opening in later June of 2024. But now we're talking about Tibetan monks, UFO sightings, and a politician from Argentina. This story, because that's what it is, blew my mind. And I got some issues with it, obviously, but I think this is going to resonate with some people because Javier Preto, a deputy mayor of Argentina, recently made headlines when he shared a rather remarkable UFO encounter during a television interview. I watched it, just so you know, and there was some information in there that wasn't mentioned in articles that were written in English. So I got you. So, when asked about his belief in aliens, Javier replied, "Not only do I believe in them, I have seen them and we're friends." We don't hear that very often, especially from an ex-mayor of any country. Let me preface this. This is actually pretty important information. South America has a very open mind about UFOs, aliens, ET, a lot more so than other countries. For instance, Uruguay was one of the very first countries to create their own UFO office. It's not Uruguay, it's Uruguay, okay? But aside from that, you can talk to people on the streets in most countries in South America, and they'll say, like, yeah, aliens, yeah, obviously, it's not just us. Compared to other countries where they're a bit more caged. And in the United States, there is that huge ridicule factor for the last few decades, but in Chile, Uruguay, Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina, all these different countries you can talk about, and they're like, yeah, I've probably seen one of them in my childhood, or I've heard stories about family members who have seen a UFO. And here, with this story by this deputy mayor of Argentina, he's like, no, yeah, I've seen them, and we're bros, we're homies. Pretty interesting stuff. So he had mentioned his encounter on this TV show about what had happened to him about a decade ago when he was the mayor of La Carlota. And he was accompanied by a Tibetan monk and some friends. So what happened was this Tibetan monk called him from Spain and he says, hey, come to Spain. I got to show you something super cool. And this mayor says, yeah, bet, I'll be there. And he hangs up and he takes a plane from Argentina to Spain. But he brings some friends with him. And so he encounters the Tibetan monk, who's a friend of his now. And the Tibetan monk says, I want to show you something. So they get up to this mountain. Actually, there's two mountains and there's a valley in the middle. And in that moment, the Tibetan monk sits down and starts chanting. We've heard this before, haven't we? 10 minutes pass. Him and his several friends are just watching the mountains as was instructed by this Tibetan monk. And then all of a sudden, they see one UFO, 2, 3, 4, all the way up until 5 UFOs of different sizes. They had this encounter, this sighting, for about 10 minutes. And they were in rows of 2. So you had 2 small ones up front, 2 medium ones right behind it, right? And then 1 huge one at the very back. And Javier felt a little uncomfortable. He's like, are they monitoring us? And the Tibetan monk says, yes, I've encountered these for some time. They're very friendly. They've been here for a very long time, and they just kind of want to get to know you. They're observing you. Supposedly, according to Javier, these 2 of the smallest orb objects were about 10, 15 feet away from him. That is diddly darn close for a UFO sighting. And you know what he didn't do, at least according to the interview? He did not take a picture. He didn't take a video. What is going on? You had all that time from a decade ago. So we're looking at like 2012, 2013, right? And he didn't have the idea to pull out his phone. Obviously, I was a little bit flustered when I heard that, or when I didn't hear that in all reality. I said, I have some issues here. And so because we do not have that form of evidence, this story only remains, well, that, just a story. But it's a very interesting one to say the least, because why would you have a politician, share his encounter with the world nearly a decade later to share his experience of seeing 5 UFOs, the Tibetan monk practically doing CE5, and then saying, oh, but you know what? I didn't think about taking a picture or a video. So, if a Tibetan monk invites you over to look at the mountains, bring a phone with you. Come on, you don't leave your house without your cell phone these days. Take a film camera, okay? More so maybe a digital one just in case for those moments. Actually, just take it everywhere with you. Just never leave home without one, because you never know when you'll be given this just immaculate encounter or possibility or opportunity, right? In the interview that he gave with these 2 other people on the TV show, they were like, they weren't even phased. That's what that's what shocked me the most, is that the other interviews, there were 2, one woman, one man, and they were like, oh yeah, you know what, actually there was a story about that by someone from Chile who had a similar experience. They did not even flinch. Here in the US, if that were to happen, a politician giving that kind of interview, they would be making jokes, asking really in-depth, hopefully in-depth questions, right? And then kind of giggling as a person's telling the story. That did not happen with this interview in Argentina. It was taken so seriously. And with Javier, his account comes shortly after a Chilean senator who claimed he was once abducted by aliens and then later visited by an extraterrestrial being, which indicated a glowing trend of these politicians in South America that are just now openly discussing their alleged UFO experiences. I do think it's rather timely that Mr. Javier over here, I have a picture of him, there he is following suit from a Chilean senator where he shared his encounter, and Javier is like, yeah, I'm going to do the same. Why not? What do I have to lose? He hasn't been in office for over a decade or so. Can we bring this trend to the United States already? Can we bring it to Japan and Australia and Canada and all these other countries already? Guys, I'm getting a little flustered here. How come South America is on the ball, on top of their game, and then here we are struggling for UFO disclosure? Well, these kinds of conversations that we're having here today, hearing these people come forward, that is where the disclosure lies. That is where it is. Now, are we going to get transparency? No. Are we going to get disclosure from the government? No. But this is helping bringing the topic to more people. Don't you think so? I do. Excuse me. My nose got a little runny right there. Not from tears, just from all these kinds of emotions going through me right now. But out of everything that we covered here today, which article was your favorite? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments. I do try my best to read all of the comments, but I always enjoy hearing what tidbit was your favorite. And before you head out, scan this QR code. It will take you to all of my social media links. I do write articles for all of the shows right here. You can find it on my website at strangeparadigms.com or on Medium at Cristina Gomez. And there is no H in Cristina. Also, I do have a space ambient music channel called Cosmic Portals, along with a fact channel called Factsophical. If that stuff kind of sparks your fancy, scan the QR code. You will really enjoy what you find. That is it for today. I will see you next time. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies. If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe, as I do 3 videos right here every single week.
and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.